what do you need to know about social selling on LinkedIn? And let me kind of give you context here. The whole inspiration for this session was built around the fact that I personally and many of my colleagues are getting pinged nonstop with some pretty ineffective, let's go with that. Is that polite? Some pretty ineffective templated outreach attempts that many people on LinkedIn would rather treat me as a transaction than as a business colleague, in a shared community when we can learn from one another and ultimately, of course, benefit from one another. So I see a lot of bad habits taking place. And I thought to myself, who's the best person that I can bring who's all over this to help me tackle this head on? And of course, that would be my good friend Mario. So if we go to the next slide, I believe it talks about what is the state of the nation when it comes to all things in social selling on LinkedIn. So Mario, what is the state of the nation when it comes to social selling on LinkedIn? Over to you.
Oh, that's a freaking great question, Daryl. Thanks for having me, by the way, and I'm excited to be here with VanillaSoft. You guys are freaking awesome. So all of y'all listening in, I mean, the reality is let me just say, Vingresso is, when we think of the word of social selling, first off, I hate the word, just so you know, even though we are the largest digital sales training service provider globally, and one of our core training products is social selling, I hate the use of the word. However, it is alive, it is well, it is being leveraged. And what we're finding is buyers are engaging on these channels and consuming and pooling information at rates that we couldn't even think of 5 years ago. So in terms of the state of social selling, what I like to think of it as, this is one of the elements within what we call the omni-channel of prospecting, the omni-channel of relationship building. It is an arrow in your quiver. If you are not utilizing this particular arrow, then you are missing something within your quiver, right? So, and you do not want to be missing, whether you want to use the bullet in the revolver, the arrow in the quiver, whatever analogy you want to use, you do not want to be missing out on this particular element. The other thing that was interesting as well, Daryl, that I'll point out, and this is a study that was published from LinkedIn in the State of Sales Report in 2018. And I don't know if you know the number, but they asked buyers, what percentage of the time do you look back to at a seller's profile when they reach out to you? And the answer was, buyers stated, there's almost 700 respondents, that 62% of the time, they are looking back at your LinkedIn profile to determine if they are going to actually engage with you. And so this is a number that is 62% is huge, but it's only going to get bigger. And if you think about also the other elements, and why I hate the word social selling is because I really think digital selling, right? You're leveraging digital platforms. So it could be video, it could be text, it could be email, it could be social, it could be AI. Those are the things you think of the categories under digital selling. The numbers are getting astronomically big when you think about video as well. And the power that you all have in your hand with platforms like Twitter or LinkedIn, which are primarily the business-related social networks that you would leverage, and incorporating digital strategies like use of video in combination, or y'all may not have known this one, the use of voicemail within LinkedIn by leaving a voice message to someone on LinkedIn. So these features and functions are like, now these worlds are now blending together. And that's where I look at the state of social selling. It's hot, it's alive. And if you're not doing it right, you will lose your buyer on the first click. And that's the first click into your profile, the first click into your message, whatever it might be, the first click of engagement.
All right, so I got a couple comments I want to come back to you on that because I love what you're going. I was literally in a discussion last night on LinkedIn about the voicemail thing, and I'm going to come back to the profile, checking out the profile afterwards, where there were people out there saying, hey, did you know this is a great feature. Because I know, example, one person who's really big on using the voicemail thing is Morgan Ingram. If you ever have good communication with Morgan Ingram, he's part of Jay Barrow's crew there. He loves using the voicemail. It's nonstop voicemail. And when this individual was saying, do you guys even know about this feature? This is really cool. I was the lone dissenting voice. And I love when this happens where I go, okay, counterpoint, guys. Here's why I don't like the voicemail. Because I use LinkedIn in meetings. I use LinkedIn on a commute. I use LinkedIn while sitting at watching a conference take place. I often don't have LinkedIn where I can just sit and listen to it. That actually is the exception. Plus, if I am hearing impaired, that doesn't work either. So unless you know that, you could be alienating that crowd. So for me, I'm not a fan of the voicemail on its own. Now you want to put them together. Hey, here's a message, plus here's a voicemail. You want pick how you want to consume it. Omni-channel, to your point. I'm all about that because then I get the tonality, which is kind of that audible body language, which really helps start to develop that relationship. So before you respond to that, because I know, Mario, you got to respond to that. The other part is the profile. So I actually did. It's interesting you bring this up because I didn't know you were going to bring this up. I actually did a post a couple of weeks back where I said, okay, let me walk you through what we as prospective, prospects, as I get pinged all the time, do. And if you haven't seen it, go to my LinkedIn timeline on my post and you will see it. I spent 5 minutes going through point by point how I showed this individual. He pinged me like 4 times. He was relentless. I finally said, okay, fine, I'm going to go check him out. And I was checking out his street cred. What did his profile say? What words did he stuff into his taglines and his subheads? What is his experience like? Then I went one step further and creeped him out and said, this is big to me. How often is this individual actually posting? Is this individual contributing to the community? Do they appear to have wisdom and insights and knowledge and advice that I can benefit from? And do they appear to understand my world just from what I'm seeing from them? Because if they don't, I'm not going to call them back. Ironically, this individual didn't. So he pinged me 4 times. He's pinged me 3 times since. I've never responded to him. What a shame to waste that effort in social selling, which I see over and over and over again, which you could have just solved if you would have fixed your profile. So that is a big part of the state of social selling. Now, Mario, I'm sure you've got an opinion on my voicemail thing.
Yeah, no. So the reality is when it comes to, you could pick out a billion features. You can pick out in-mails. You could pick out voicemail features. You could pick out engagement strategies. You could pick out leveraging video on your news stream. Like every one of us could pick out, I don't like this. I don't like that. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. Nah. Don't think what you think. It's not about what you think. It is about what buyers think. That's the most important part here when it comes to social engagement and social selling. It is about the buyer and what the buyer's preference is. And here's where our job, Daryl, has gotten so much more complex as sellers that if I have 5 different buyers in an account or 5 different buyers within 5 different accounts, the fact of the matter is, Daryl, you might like social engagement, but buyer number 2 might prefer phone engagement. Buyer number 3 may prefer email-based engagement. Buyer number 4 may love video, right? And if you think about this, the buyer preferences is really what's dictating how we engage with an individual, with an individual buyer. And our job is to figure out which is the right methodology that works. And that is why there is a skill set and process that you go through in leveraging a platform like LinkedIn, which is building a cadence. So as an example, if I'm trying to sell to you, Daryl, what I would do today is I would click the follow button. Now, what does that do? I'm sorry, actually, before I click follow button, I need to make sure that my profile speaks to who I help, how I help, and what business problem I solve. That it's a resource for buyers, not a resume. And that's one of the big things that we do with our sales teams that we work with is transform the brand first so that it's turning from a resource, from a resume into a resource to a buyer. All right. Assuming that you've got that piece done, now I want to get your attention. I might follow you. Now that follow, hopefully within 48 hours, will trigger back you looking back at my profile. As soon as you look back at my profile, I now know one very important thing. You are socially engaged. right? Because if I follow you, you get a notification on your side that Mario Martinez Jr. has followed you. And therefore, the natural curiosity thing that happens, or curious thing that happens by an individual is, who is this Mario Martinez Jr.? And you look back at my profile. Boom. Now I know that you are an engaged LinkedIn user. Now, presuming that you do look back or you don't look back, the next step you want to think about doing is building your next step in the cadence process, right? The next step in the cadence process might be that I actually view your LinkedIn profile. And then after I view your LinkedIn profile, the next day I'm going to send an email. And then the next day I might actually make a phone call. And then the next day I'm going to, in that phone call, reference that I reached out to connect with them on LinkedIn. I'd be and bring some value to the conversation, right? We call it a PVC method, which we could talk about in a bit. And I might now send a connection request message. And then after the connection request message, if they accept my connection request, now I'm going to welcome them with a welcome message that brings pure value and follow a sequence of messaging that would be appropriate and applicable to that buyer persona. So you see here, guys, it's not one size fits all, but there is a cadence. Now, I didn't even mention LinkedIn voicemail inside there. And that doesn't come until after you've connected with somebody and after you've engaged with some messaging. I recommend the use of voicemail. That once that person's connected, I might leave a personal voicemail for that individual saying, hey, Daryl, thanks so much for connecting with me. By the way, looking forward to working with you or answering questions related to, or whatever the buyer persona problem is, I'm going to speak to that particular buyer persona problem. And that's where you got to be thinking about is, how the heck do I use a cadence model? And that cadence model allows me to sequentially go through and figure out where my buyer engages at. Because if I send an email and they respond and they never looked back at my LinkedIn profile, or they never engaged with me on LinkedIn, guess what? I know that they're not on LinkedIn, right? If I send them a tweet, or I tweet at them, if they have a Twitter handle and they never engage back, they never like, they never comment, they never tweet back, well, guess what? Probably somebody in their social media department is handling their Twitter account, and or they don't even look at it, right? So the key is understanding what are the buyer preferences and how do I engage as it maps to the buyer preferences.
So everything you've just described, now this is one of the few times I'll give a plug for VanillaSoft, is exactly what a sales engagement platform facilitates, is that cadence, is that sequence, is that playbook, where you can do omni-channel touches, phone, email, social, including LinkedIn, and you can have all the kind of content you want to, video, etc. That's what sales engagement does for you. So you can see how sales engagement and social selling are so critical, which is one of the reasons we actually did this webinar, because we see so many people messing up one of the most significant channels of engagement possible when you're doing and executing your cadence, which is to drive revenue for you. So Mario's right. You've got to have a cadence. You've got to have a rhythm, because you don't know which channel they're going to engage on. That's huge. What I like about what Mario just said, especially is that he said the voicemail comes kind of afterwards when the connection has been established and perhaps there's a rapport there. And that's actually exactly what I said in this conversation last night, where I said, if I know the individual, then that's different, because now we can do this. And it makes more sense. And that's exactly how Morgan and I go back and forth. All right. So what I want to do is I want to bring up the first talking point. Well, the first one was, what's the state of social selling? The next one is what do you do when your people don't respond to your outreaches? All right. So you've pinged them and they do not respond to your outreach. Mario, what do we do?
Yeah. So we teach in our Selling with LinkedIn, and if anybody's ever interested, it's the sellingwithlinkedin.com. There's an individual course, and then we do training for teams. And one of the methodologies that we teach is what's called the PVC method, right? So the PVC method is personalize, bring value, drive a call to action. P for personalize, V for value, C for call to action. Now, there are two ways that you can approach the PVC methodology, and PVC works for anything that you do in digital engagement, whether it's a video or whether it's a social, sending an actual personalized connection request message, or it's sending an in-mail, or it's asking for a referral through a digital referral. The PVC method is ubiquitous, universal, all the way across any one of these activities. So one of the reasons why buyers don't respond is, first, you've connected and now you go straight into a pitch. That's the first reasons why buyers don't respond. We get so excited over the fact that we've now connected on a platform that we think that we're BFFs, and as a result of being BFFs, now we're just going to reach out and tell them exactly what we intended to talk about. However, what we need to realize is whether it's your significant other, your wife, or your husband, when we married ourselves off, or if you're not married, when you started the dating process, you didn't immediately fall in love. Like, it wasn't generally love at first sight. It was connection, but it wasn't love at first sight. It took time to be able to build that relationship up. And so that's what we got to be thinking about is how do we personalize content to the buyer persona at the very minimum, or to the buyer themselves. What do I mean by that? What's the difference? To the buyer, now, Daryl is extremely active on social channels. If I am selling to the CMO at VanillaSoft, in this case, Daryl, I can easily see, based upon his interest, based upon his posting, based upon the content that he's sharing, based upon the visibility that he has, based upon his thought leadership, I could easily integrate a personalized message and or piece of content specific to Daryl and wrap that up as to something why that's of interest to me, or what I've seen for other individuals who are generating that thought leadership. But there may be some individuals who are not as active as Daryl, right? And what do you do for those individuals? At the baseline, now you've got a personalized content to the buyer persona. Example, Daryl. Whenever I reach out to a CRO, CSO, and last year I did 202 executive level meetings alone, 202 executive level meetings. And each time, if there was nothing personalized that I could find on their profile, which is very rare, by the way, very rare, very limited, because there's always something, and we talk about looking for the big fish on the wall, there's always the fish that I could find, generally speaking. But if I can't, now what I'm speaking to is, Daryl, as a sales leader, there are usually 3 problems that you are challenged by. The first is creating more conversations with more qualified buyers, and the third is closing those conversations into opportunities and moving them into the bottom of the funnel by a close. Those are generally 3 problems that sales leaders deal with. So if I can speak to those problems in terms of how we, in this case Vingresso, help solve 1 or 2 or 3 of those problems, now I'm personalizing content and messaging specific to the buyer persona. And that's super important, that if you reach out through a social channel, you've got to understand you're going to either personalize to the buyer themselves or personalize to the buyer persona. That's that P in the PVC method. Does that make sense, Daryl?
Oh man, I love this. So literally, I'm here right now in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm not back home in my studio. I had to extend my stay an extra day because I'm down here for the B2B Marketing Expo. And it was an awesome show. Big shout out to Demand Gen and the Demand Gen Report who puts that on. The reason I'm bringing this up was because I was on the show floor hanging out at the booth yesterday. And I love this. One of my reps who was there said, Daryl, well, I've got you here. I'm struggling with getting responses when I use social media, LinkedIn, specific to outreach. What's your advice to me? And it's so weird to hear you saying that. And what I said was exactly that. If you can go and pick up something about the individual that you can personalize, then that's a connection. But that on its own can be played against you. You know, my CEO, David Hood, would say, hey, when you send me a message that says, hey, I saw that press release that VanillaSoft is rocking. He goes, well, yeah, I know the press release. We helped write it. I helped authorize it, put it on the wire, move on. But if you give it a little more context, so the whole idea of personalized value, and then the call to action, the value part is what I was saying to my rep, come up with 3 things that individual that you glean from them and what they're posting or what you can see on them, or the persona that persona has a mandate to fix. And how I phrased it was, people would typically engage with us if they have problem number 1, problem number 2, problem number 3. And then I went one step further and I said, now let's use the example of Benjamin Dennehy. So Benjamin Dennehy, if you don't know him, folks, you should follow him. He recently did he shared a video on LinkedIn. He's a sales trainer for the phone, and he was put on the spot and was forced to actually do a cold call live streaming. He did it. He got the individual He actually booked the appointment. It was awesome. The way he did it was the exact same way, even though it was the phone. He said people normally engage us for, they have a problem with A, B, or C. Then he said, but I'm assuming that's not a problem you have. Now, the point of the matter was his question wasn't designed, his call to action, if you indirectly, wasn't designed to dead end him. In other words, is that a problem you have? No. Where do you go from there? Right? You're stuck. In his example, he said, I assume that's a problem you don't have. And the fellow actually said, well, actually, you're right. I don't have those problems. I have this problem. So ironically, in that approach, the negative approach was designed, if he didn't have those ones, he would probably say, you're right, because it's this. And now I've got somewhere to keep on going. So that's the implied call to action. It is the value. That's what resonates. And in every single pitch I get from people where I ignore or I delete them, it's because what I instead get is this. Hi, I was really looking at VanillaSoft, and it's really engaging what you're doing. And I think I have some ideas on how we can help. Or can I have 15 minutes on your calendar? Or can we get together for 15 minutes to talk about your next quarter objectives? So what's wrong with all those examples? When you say, I see something unique about your company that I think we can help with, this is how I do. I actually respond with these. I say, really? What exactly did you see that you think is unique and how you can help me? Because I know they're BSing me. I know it's a line. 9 out of 10, they don't respond. All right. When they ask for 15 minutes on my calendar, or they ask, then my response is, why? Yeah, I don't know you from Adam. And I look at your profile, I see no reason to compel me to do anything with you. Or they say, when I can look at, can we talk about your next quarter objectives? Again, I say to myself, why? I see nothing on your profile that compels me to think you can add value to me, and I'm busy. So if you don't do the PVC approach, that's why you're not having responses. If you do the PVC approach, I'm going to check out your profile. I may even connect with you, and I will respond to you. Now, the response might be as simple as, I don't see a fit right now, but I will respond to you. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move it on.
Daryl.
Go ahead.
Daryl, I was going to say, somebody asked about, I mentioned the big fish on the wall, and they said, well, what is the big fish on the wall? And this is in the context of personalizing. So in the old days of selling, when I was trained to sell, and I've been in sales for 21 years, my last stop was a VP of sales. That was 3 years ago, before I launched my own practice for a software collaboration company. And what we were always trained to do was, whenever you walked into a prospect's office, you're always looking for what we call the big fish on the wall. So it's the guy holding the fish, or it could be a woman as well. It's the picture of their family. It's the picture next to their dog. It's the picture of their kids. It's an award, a trophy, something that when you walked into someone's office, you're able to actually look for something that would help create and start the conversation out for that first 30-minute, 1 hour long meeting, so that you're really building relationship and rapport with an individual, as opposed to, okay, what's this meeting all about? And you get right into the agenda, right? So that is where you're looking for what we call the big fish on the wall. And generally what happens is when you find that fish on the wall, the picture of their children, the dog, the trophy, whatever it might be, and you ask them about it, you'll spend 10 minutes talking about that particular event, or that individual is very proud. This is my family, or this, that, and the other. And that's how you ease into a conversation. And so the interesting part about this, and all of you listening in, that I hope that you take this point that I'm about to say, and you nail this one in terms of okay, before I do something on LinkedIn, this is the rule I need to apply. Whatever you would do in person, and how you would interact with an individual is generally what you would do online, right? So if you suck offline, you're going to suck online. That's the point. And this is very important that you think about this, because generally speaking, and I'll give you an example of this, Daryl, sales reps have no profile photo or crappy profile photos, and they've got their girlfriend or their boyfriend or their mom or their daughter or their cousin or their little doggy next to them, right? And they've got all kinds of half cut off pictures, shoulders, half heads, half faces, half chins, those types of things, no professional photo. And so, or no photo at all, or they've privatized their settings, as an example, so that you can't see their profile photo when you are looking back at someone's, or when you're viewing someone's profile, that the individual can't see who you are. And what you want to ask yourself, and here's the correlation: would you ever walk into a networking event, a live networking event, with a bag on your head? And the answer to that is, of course, no. So you got to think about, okay, well then why would I do that on a platform like LinkedIn? Why would I not be visible? Why would I not have a picture? Why would it not be a professional, represent my personal brand correctly? Why would I have a picture of a half cut off shoulder or half cut off head of me sitting next to somebody? Because it shows that I'm too cheap to go to the mall and get $70 picture taken of a professional photo with a nice white, green, or red background, which are the background colors that we choose. That is just one example. And so same thing, you would never walk up to a buyer at a networking event and say, hi, Daryl, I'm Mario Martinez. By the way, I'd love to be able to have a 15-minute call with you to be able to talk about how we can help you create more conversations with more qualified buyers. Can you pull out your calendar and let's have a meeting that would be good for you? You look at me and like, who the heck is this dude? Dude, I have no interest in talking to you. So if we would not do that at a live networking event, then why do we do that on an online platform? It basically means that you suck offline because you're going to suck. You're sucking online is essentially what that means.
I love that. So, well, we queue up the next slide to talk about why people aren't responding. I want to talk about that. You've got a beautiful segue there. If you guys have not seen it, check out Gaetano Donardi. He posted a video where you talk about whatever you do, offline, you should do online. And if you suck offline, you're going to suck online. So what he did was he captured all of these classic templates the guy just shared, which was, hey, can I have 15 minutes on your calendar? Hey, can I talk about your next quarter objectives, your quarterly objectives? And he went to a shopping mall over the Christmas holidays, and he had a colleague, across the other side of the mall zoom in on him. He was all wired up and mic'd on the audio. And he just starts walking up to strangers and hey, can I give you a product demo? Hey, can we get together to talk about your Q2 quarterly objectives? And these people are like, what the hell? And their expressions are incredible. And what he did in that parody was he was able to actually demonstrate how stupid that is to do in person. So if it's stupid to do in person, why? Why, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, why, for heaven's sake, do you continue to do this on LinkedIn, behind the power of the keyboard? It's dumb. So the next slide we have is exactly that. It is, Mario, tell me, why do people keep on using these templates? Because we know they're templates. We've all seen the exact same template from 1,000 different people pitching us. We know these are unpersonalized, out of the box from whatever sales engagement platform you're using. Why do they insist on doing this?
Oh my God. One of my favorite ones is a well-known LinkedIn influencer. And this LinkedIn influencer writes scripts that says, thank you so much for connecting with me. Generally, what I like to do with brand new connections is have a 15-minute meeting so that we can understand how we can help each other. Here's my calendar appointment to be able to set up a meeting.
Oh, I hate that. Oh my gosh, I hate that. Go ahead.
That's what I say.
Yes.
Wait. So you're prospecting to, I don't care if you're an SMB, single owner client. I could care less whether or not you have a solo business that you're calling on or you're calling on the CEO of a Fortune 10 company. The answer is no. I do not connect with people so that I can have generally a 15-minute conversation to see how we can help each other. No. Those scripts are stupid. They're stupid scripts. They don't work. And whatever you do, when you see those scripts, run from them. Now, if you have a script that says that you don't know how to personalize to the buyer, right? You're reaching out, you can't personalize to the buyer, and I'll give you a very secret tip that these guys can listen in on what we give in our training. The one, actually, I've never given this secret tip before on a public webinar. It's all in our private training, but I'll give this one on subject lines. Okay, so allow me to come back to that one. But if you cannot script to the person, then you're going to go back to the buyer persona as we talked about. And so I generally. We are very focused. We generally solve two very specific problems, helping to create more conversations for salespeople with more qualified buyers. And if you have any other problem as a sales leader, I'm sorry, that's not us. And we're very myopically focused. So I appreciate what you did about the cold call where they said, you don't have that problem. No, I want someone to say, hey, I don't have that problem because guess what? You're not a buyer for me. I'm moving on, right? But that's okay. That's our style. That's what I do. And so what you need to be thinking about is on these scripts, if you get a script, which is what we provide, we do absolutely provide scripts. And in those scripts, they are templatized, and it will say something to the effect like this. Generally, there are two problems that other, and you fill in the blank, and sales leaders, IT leaders, business leaders, marketing leaders, whatever it is, marketing leaders face. And then it says number one and number two. And what forces you to think about is, as a salesperson, is, dang, what does my product solve for? What business problem does my product solve for? If you cannot answer the question, the specific business problem or problems that your platform, your technology, your service, your whatever it is that you're selling solves for a specific buyer, then you need to stop before you send out another email, make another cold call, make another LinkedIn connection, make anything else that you do in prospecting. Stop. Figure out what business problem you are solving for, or business problems, and start changing your conversation to speak to the business problems. Because then you'll know whether or not you have a live opportunity, that you can actually move a conversation down the field if somebody has that specific problem that you're trying to solve for. And it might be multiple business problems. We're a service-based company, so we focus in on very two specific problems. But as a technology company, you might have 10 things that you solve for. So pick the main ones, think about those types of things, and then use the methodology that Daryl just talked about, which is you probably don't have that problem because maybe you don't want to myopically focus yourself on just these two items, but there might be like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and number 10 might be the problem. So you just need to be thinking about that. And to personalize back to the buyer, it could be something as simple as this. And here's the secret tip that I've never, ever, and nobody in the company has ever given before on a public webinar. Just so you know, this is all private back into our training program. It's one of our secret tips that we use. At a very minimum, if you find someone's profile where they have an alternate language that they speak, French, Spanish, whatever it might be, imagine a personalized subject line that is converted into one of the other languages that they speak. All you have to do is go to Google Translator. Go type in whatever the subject line is that you would normally put it in English, have Google Translator translate that, and have a message that starts out with that subject line with the language that they speak. And I tell you, most people, I can't even think of one person yet who has not responded to a cold outreach where you've personalized it and you've acknowledged in the first line, I saw that you're a French speaker. Hopefully my bad attempt on French was worked, right? So you don't tell them where you got it from. It makes a buyer feel like, wow, you actually took the time to get to know me just a smidgen. And that helps significantly.
So ironically, if we bring this back full circle to why the templates are not working, it goes back to PVC, right? Personalize, value, call to action. The templates are not personalized and they're not adding any value. What they're trying to do is a call to action for the sales rep. There's nothing in it for the prospect. Whatever vendor's product you're using, you should have red flags going off because that vendor does not understand social selling. So that's a big ass warning. And I don't use the big ass word often, but a big ass warning. Stop doing that. Now, I've had this conversation, Mario, with people over and over again, and I say, don't do this. There's a couple of things I say, don't do this. One, don't do the template thing. It just makes you look like a moron, and we ignore you. And I'm just trying to give you a tip here, dude. Don't do it. The second thing I say is, if I do respond and you send me a link and say, here's my calendar, go book something, don't do that either. Because what you're doing is you're saying that your time is more important than my time. You don't have time to give me some options, so I better go self-serve, get onto your calendar. If I'm the guy who owns the budget, that's not how I want that balance of power to start off with on the negotiations. If you truly value me, give me some times that might work for you. Or alternatively, if these times don't work, here's a link to my entire calendar. I really want to talk to you. And let's see if we can find something together. That's a better approach. But their response in both of these cases is, Daryl, I get it doesn't work. It's a numbers game. I'm a sales rep. I'm playing a numbers game. And right now, my numbers game is going okay. So if I tick you off and you don't respond, no big deal. I'm still hitting my numbers. It's like in your face. I'm a true salesperson who doesn't care about you. I'm all about the transaction. What do you say to that?
Daryl, man, you hit on several things that are super important for these reps. There's three things that I wrote down. I'm sorry, I was writing three things down.
No, it's all good.
First off, the 15-minute meeting. I published a video, and it's on our YouTube channel for Vingresso, and it's called the 15-minute meeting. It's stupid. Stop it. Right. So the 15-minute meeting. There may be appropriate times to use 15 minutes to catch up with somebody or to have a conversation with somebody, right? But generally speaking, I can't even within the first 7 minutes develop a relationship with somebody. And now I've only got 8 minutes left, right? It takes me 7 minutes on a call to be able to just get to know the individual, ask questions, find out who they are, what they're all about, children, I am a very relationship oriented individual. 7 minutes. That's how long it takes me to warm up that particular call. So if you're doing a 15-minute call and you're just trying to slam bam and get people through the process and be able to book it for your account executive, or if you're an AE and you're doing the full service cycle for your inside salesperson, or even if you're a national account manager, no, I can't even think of a NAM or a GAM that would actually take the time to ask for a 15-minute meeting with an executive. 30 minutes. That's my recommendation. Number two, on the dates. Look, people, I am a CEO of a small 30-person company, albeit the largest digital sales training company in the world. However, here's what I'm going to tell you. Small company, CEO, you ask for a meeting within this week or next week, I immediately blow you off because you are not smart enough to freaking figure out that as an executive, my calendar, generally speaking, is booked out at least 2 weeks, at least 2. So in our training methodologies that we teach people, when you're sending out a message, you actually say, do any of these dates and times work for you? And you put 2 weeks out at 9 a.m., 3 weeks out at 1 p.m., 4 weeks out at 4 p.m. Now, what did I just do? I'm acknowledging that you're a busy executive and you may not be able to meet for 2, 3, or 4 weeks. And also, I'm doing morning, mid-afternoon, and late afternoon because I want to assess as a salesperson, when is the best time that you like to have meetings so that I can repeat and rinse each time that I reach out. I also will say, especially if it's a cold outreach, I will say the following, or to make life easy, I've placed my entire calendar online so that we can avoid email, I put in quotes, email scheduling volleyball. Here's the link, and it's schedule a call with Mario.com. And you can type and see what that looks like, schedule a call with Mario.com. And then you would insert your link. And then I ask the question, does that work for you? So I've given them 3 dates and times, 2, 3, and 4 weeks out, 9, 1, and 4. Or I say, if you want to avoid email scheduling volleyball, here's a link. Does that work for you? And I allow them to say it. Now, I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 executives use my link to schedule a meeting because it's easy. But I've given them, and I've gave them a consideration to your point. Who the heck are you? Here's my link to schedule a meeting. No. If you want me to have a meeting, you better figure out how to get a meeting with me and work, right? Especially if you're going to solve a business problem, unless and only if there is a burning, urgent need to solve a specific problem, then that buyer will move that meeting up before 2 weeks, and they will be very willing to be able to schedule that call with you through your link. But that's like how many times do we call somebody or do we reach out to somebody and we know instantly we have an opportunity? No, it takes time to cultivate. So those are very far and few in between. Hope that helps.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which was all about, we don't need to put the slide up, we'll just talk about it, because you're already talking about it. You're talking about I have 30 minutes minimum because I want to get to know the individual. The point of the slide was that we need to woo, W-O-O, we need to woo our prospects a little bit. We need to build the relationship up. Now, for those who haven't seen it, I posted a video yesterday on LinkedIn. I'll share it in the comments. I went on a walk with my wife, walking the dog. My wife is not a LinkedIn user at all. She's not self-declared technologically, high-end. Let's go with that, all right? I am tech support around the house. But man, does she use Facebook and all the other platforms. I asked her a simple question. I said, if someone were to reach out to you that you don't know and ask to connect with you, and at the same time try to pitch you for your business or to get together to talk about doing business with them, what's the likelihood of you accepting that? And her response was brilliant and was like, well, I probably wouldn't because I don't know who they are. And clearly they're just looking to do something for them. There's nothing in this for me. I don't even know them. I'm like, wow. So then I said, okay, let's say you did connect with them. And then a few weeks go by and you've had a few exchanges. And now they approach you to connect and actually evaluate their products or their services. Would you? And her response was like, yeah, probably, because then I've gotten to know them and I trust them. And so, yeah, I probably would then. So this is my wife. She is the everyday person. She is a human being. This is how she approaches it. She will not respond to you unless she gets to know you. You've got to woo your prospects. Mario, why are we so reticent? Why are we so impatient? Why do we refuse to woo our prospects?
Well, this is a sales leadership problem, less a salesperson problem, right? I mean, look, the number of percent of sales reps making quota has gone down from the mid 60s, and I think it's in the high 50s, right? In terms of the percent of sales reps that are achieving their quota. And so sales leaders are doing something very wrong. And I can say this because I sat in the seat as a sales leader. And what we're doing is we are measuring, generally speaking, productivity, right? How productive are you? How many phone calls did you make? As opposed to, we should be measuring the outcome. The end outcome needs to be, how many conversations did you have? Because at that point, I could care less about what medium you're using, whether you're using social, whether you're using video, whether you're using texting, whether you're using inbound marketing tactics, or whether or not you are posting content or you're doing a cold call. It's really the outcome. And the problem is why so many sales reps are doing these things is because they're trying to churn through a productivity-based metric that they have to get through, or they've got a quota that's sitting on their head. And so it's really difficult for sales reps to be able to develop the time that it takes to be able to really develop relationships. So what you're talking about, Daryl, is I connect, and our methodology that we teach is within about a 5-day period, as long as you're sharing valuable content with that individual as a what we call the 1-step versus the 2-step. On the 2-step process is I'm going to personalize and bring value in that first welcome message. And then 3 to 5 days later, I might drive to a CTA, which is the C in the PVC method, right? So that's called our 2-step methodology. A lot of sales reps in our training, we teach both. The 1-step, they go PVC all the way. I'm going to personalize, bring value, and drive to call to action in that first welcome message that you and I just connected. And you'd be surprised, it's more like a 7 out of 10 reps say, I want to go PVC 1-step, which is I'm going to ask for it all in one shot. And we say, hey, go for it. If it works, hallelujah. But if it doesn't, then taper it back. Go 2-step process, spread it out over the course of a couple days, and using the platform like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can actually tag your contacts on when you sent messaging out and do follow-ups within, based upon a cadence program like the way we teach in our cadence of tagging. So the point is there's no one size fits all. You need to try it. If you're having less success, then the great part about it of sales is, hey, if you're not getting the success you want, try something different. And that's the beauty of sales.
All right, let's bring it on to our next slide, which is all about tips and tricks. And you've already given us a fair number of tips and tricks here, but if there's a handful of tips and tricks, Mario, that you can share for our audience, shall we say, let's say they watch this and you're going to say, I want you to immediately go and do this to improve your likelihood of success. What would that be?
So every one of us has something on their desk like this. I don't know if you can see this. If you can see this, this is a stack of business cards, right? We all have this stack of business cards. We collect them, and what the heck do we do with it? Here's what I want you to do. Here's your tip. None of us have the old school Rolodex. Remember those old school Rolodex, Daryl's, where we used to have that big old giant turning ball?
I was way before my time, dude. I'm 23.
I'm pretty positive that nobody on this webinar has that giant turning ball with the index cards A through Z that they're putting business cards inside of. So where is your Rolodex? Your Rolodex is a digital Rolodex. It is LinkedIn. So I want you to take all those business cards and go and reach out and grow your network and connect with all of those individual buyers. You'll never know when you're going to use those buyers or connections at some point down the road. Number 2 tip that I would give you is if you've set up a meeting, you better darn well immediately after sending out that calendar invite, get out to LinkedIn and send that individual a connection request. And you're going to say, hey, Daryl, I'm looking forward to our meeting so that you have a face to the name. I wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn. Now, why do you want to do that? Statistically, reps report that about 25% of their meetings get canceled or rescheduled. And of those 25%, about half of that ends up getting never rescheduled ever. But if you can connect with that buyer inside your network, they may not have been ready to buy now. They may not want to talk now. But if you can bring them into your network, and the third point I will say, start sharing content that maps to the buyer persona and problem, then over the course of time, they will look to you as a source of expertise, as someone they can turn to. My top one was last month. I had a buyer reach out to me. We had been connected for 27 months. And I had attempted multiple times to have conversations with them by reaching out, never ready. They reached out to me and said, Mario, I saw your recent post on whatever it was. It was a video. And I know we haven't spoken, but I'm now ready to talk. 27 months later. So the point is build your network. Your network is your net worth. And that is super important. You remember those three components. So first thing is make sure that you connect with your buyers. Once you've scheduled a meeting, take those business cards, connect with those buyers on LinkedIn. And the third item is make sure that you are sharing content regularly that maps to your buyer persona.
All right. And from my point of view, I'm going to echo a little bit of exactly what Mario said, and I'll share a personal story. All right. So I'm a marketer, and before I joined VanillaSoft, the vast majority of my community on LinkedIn were marketers. But of course, at VanillaSoft, our primary audience are those in the sales role. And I didn't have a big presence there. I didn't have content there. So I was where many of you are just a year and a half ago. And what I started doing was identifying the influencers in the space, people like Mario and others. And I just followed them just to get an idea of what was it they were talking about. So I was savvy to what was going on in the conversation, and I could start to contribute. I could learn, and then I could contribute. That's the first part. Then you start following the most prolific followers of those influencers because they've got reach too. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to build up reach so that when you start to contribute, your reach can spread. The other thing I did, this is my number one pet peeve. I share it with every single person. Please, 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 for the love of goodness, do not be a sycophant. What do I mean by that? A sycophant is someone who just wants to be a follower. So if Mario goes and makes some post out there, and of course, you know it's going to be kick ass, he makes a post. As a sycophant, I go, right on. Great post. Preach, brother. You know what's wrong with that? There's no value. You're just being a suck up. Add value. What was it that you liked about that? Do you disagree, or do you agree or disagree? Like yesterday on the voicemail thing, I said, I kind of disagree, and this is why. And that sparked, it's amazing. Every single time I do that, you watch how many likes you will get. Because just because you may be the outlier out there, nobody else had the courage to express an opposing opinion. Once you do, they will glom on you, and you will be the all-star because you said it first. Don't be negative or opposing just for the sake of doing it. Have a take, add value. Finally, video. Mario mentioned this already. Video is huge. When I started doing video, I let my personality come out. A lot of people get scared by that. I'm a straight shooter. A lot of people get scared by that. They don't want to offend anybody, heaven forbid. Be yourself. If people are attracted to you for your certain qualities in real life, make sure those exact same qualities are expressed online, and you will be valued for being genuine and being authentic. All right. And don't just do video. Okay. Please don't do the driving shot, the walking shot, I'm at my desk shot. Please avoid the bookshelf shot. All right. Actually try to be authentic and not pose. And here's a little advanced tip. 90% of people are watching your videos on silent. So subtitle it. Lots of great services out there to help you with that. Those are my points to augment what he's doing. What I want to bring it back now to is kind of a recap slide. So if we bring that slide up on where we're at, this is where I've got, all right? I've been taking notes, what we're doing on here. Voicemail is a unique angle you could be using, but you may want to consider doing that once you have a bit of a relationship going on. Your profile needs to be healthy. VanillaSoft has a whole practice around this. They're one vendor who can help you out and help you out incredibly fast. That is like the best investment you can make. If you want more money in your career and you want more success, invest in yourself. If you don't want to go VanillaSoft, you want to do it yourself, there's lots of ebooks online for not a lot of money. That's how my first attempt at making over my profile, I bought a $7 ebook and it made a dramatic difference. Video is your friend. Do that. Monitor who suddenly follows you. That's a sign that they're engaged with you. The golden rules, PVC, personalize, value, call to action. Call to action. Don't ask for 15 minutes on my calendar. You want to be scheduling at least 30. You want to be scheduling at least 2 weeks out, early, midday, end of day. So they have lots of options. They can pick what works best for them based on their own personal circumstances. You want to connect with your buyers and your contacts. You may not have any relationships with them now, but connect with them because you never know when you will have a relationship with them. And finally, you want to build content and contribute to that conversation. So that's kind of the recap of what you should be doing. It sounds like a lot of work. You have to manage it. There's no argument on that, but it is what it is. Now, I'm going to go back to my good friend Mario here. One of the questions we were getting asked here is, do I need to make content? I don't have a lot of time for content. Do I have to have like articles and blogs and videos? Like, do I have to do that? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll give you my quick answer. No. That's it. That's my quick answer. Look, your organization likely is already producing great content. And if they are not producing great content, no problem. Here's a free tip for you. Go to a tool called Feedly. Feedly, feedly.com. And Feedly actually is a content curation tool. That's there's a free service and then there's a premium service. And you can look things up by industry type, by vertical. You could also do searches on inside of our sellingwithlinkedin.com training program that we have. We teach you all about how to leverage hashtag communities so that you can leverage those communities and buyers. But at worst case scenario, if you have no content from your company, you have no content that you can find online from Feedly, you have no content that is available inside of the hashtag communities, no recommended articles, let's just pretend that's the case, then what you need to do is you engage with your buyers who are socially active and their content. Share what they share. If I'm a CIO and I'm publishing an article about security, infrastructure, networking, WAN, whatever it might be, guess what? Other CIOs might want to have that content and have access to that. So share what your customers share. And the double part of that is it gets you noticed as well because they'll get a notification that you shared their piece of content.
All right. Any other questions that we want to put up here fast and furious? Mario, what's the number one question you get asked all the time?
Number one question we get asked all the time is, does LinkedIn really work? And the answer is yeah, you better believe that it actually really works. But it's not just LinkedIn. Don't just think LinkedIn. Someone asked about video and incorporating video in combination with LinkedIn. Look, we talked about just scratch the surface of voicemailing on LinkedIn. Videos, if you actually send a video message. So if you typed in any web URL into a message, you're going to see that it's going to pull the thumbnail up inside the message and look at what it looks like on desktop. Send anybody, one of your colleagues, myself, anybody a URL through messaging and look at how pretty those thumbnails pull up and what the difference it looks like on desktop. It's a difference of night and day. So absolutely incorporate those types of things. And I forgot what the question was, so hopefully I answered it.
I'm trying to think. The number one question I get asked a lot of is really how do you manage to do it all? And in fact, the question I get beyond that is, how do you come up with topics to talk about? And for me, it's really easy. I just watch all the time. So if my boss comes to me and says, that email campaign sucked, Daryl. Well, there's a topic. I can go out and say, why are emails not effective like they used to be? What are you guys doing? All right. Or if I see one of our SDRs getting yelled at because they're missing their quota, what are the top 3 ways to make sure you don't miss your quota? You know, if you just go on everywhere you look, if you just watch and study your own life and those who are around you, there is activity happening all the time that is input for your own topic ideas that you can contribute and share. All right, guys, gals, everybody's watching this. We're going to wrap it up. We're up to 1 hour. I want to bring up the slide that has our contact information of Mario and I. You can see the email address is right there. If you want to email us, especially if you're watching this on demand, there's a great way to do it. Mario, Vengresso, if they want to learn more about you and your organization, how to get in touch with you or your organization, how to benefit from you or your organization, how can they do that?
I think the easiest thing, Daryl, is just go to sellingwithlinkedin.com, sellingwithlinkedin.com, and www.sellingwithlinkedin.com, which will lead you to a page on Vengresso, and you can get lots of information inside there. The other thing I would say is we publish 3 to 5 videos per week on sales training, digital sales training tips on our Vengresso YouTube channel. Subscribe to Vengresso YouTube, and you'll have a lot of fun there with getting free tips straight to your desktop.
As far as myself, if you want to get a hold of me, you can do it on LinkedIn, Daryl Braille, just like you see spelled right there. You can email me at any time like you see there. Please do that. Don't hesitate. Beyond that, as per Mario's point, we are cranking out video, especially content, especially video content, all the time. The first day on the job, I like to share a story where my good friend Daniel, who's producing today's show, said to me after his first week, if you'd have told me I was going to produce 9 videos, I would have said, no way, back the door up. There's no way. And that's the content we do. It's all about sales. It's all about marketing. But most importantly, it's about engagement. Mario talked about the ability to have that cadence, the important to go omni-channel, of which social is a critical one of those channels. That's what VanillaSoft does. We have a free trial, 30 days, kick the tires, see if it helps you optimize your cadence and increase your success. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Mario. I had a blast.
Buddy, thank you for inviting us, and we're excited to be here with you. Thank you for letting us in front of your audience.
And with that, guys and gals, we're out of here. VanillaSoft.com, Vengresso.com. We shall talk to you soon. Take care, folks. Have a great day.